act here as a kind of like kind of tool, a kind of like a window for the researcher when empirically proved help us in testing an existing theory. And a theory is not like a speculation, not properly speculated. So it will help a set of kind of interrelated statements organized for doing the research. So in this case, I must tell that hypothesis is very much helpful for qualitative as well as quantitative research also. Both can use hypothesis, but it depends how you have located the research gap, what the problems identification and other things. And as we know very well that hypothesis is very much helping us to know the need of data and explains the social phenomena and develop the theory. So these are the we discussed just now. So based on the nature of the paper, it is very much helpful in knowing the most suitable techniques of analysis, if at all we are going to adopt. So basically, so in case of qualitative as well as also quantitative is very much a kind of like associated, a kind of like is research become more focused under the direction of the hypothesis. And also in qualitative also we can take and we can prove, because you see many theories, many kind of like frameworks are unknown to us, and we must act to bridge the gap with the help of hypothesis between the theory and the investigation. Over to Dr. Pratisha Madam.
Thank you, sir. And we have received some other question also, and I have shared with you, sir, in the chat box.
It is necessary to formulate the qualitative research. Is possible how to analyze the hypothesis? I told Madam it will act as a kind of like to bridge the gap between the theories and framework, so we can use without any difficulties. And adequate sample, one is written how to write a hypothesis. You see, hypothesis is I told you null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. So I cited you example also. So you must see your objective, and you must see your kind of like the nature of the paper. Based on that, you can develop the hypothesis, because you see there are the prediction of relations between two or more independent variables or two or more dependent variables is depends actually. Before you begin working on a question, and you need to formulate a research hypothesis. So you ask questions, automatically the practice will be developed, and you can formulate the hypothesis. You see how hypotheses are being formulated. And I told you directional hypothesis, non-directional hypothesis. Apart from that, causal hypothesis I told. Apart from that, I told you null hypothesis. So null hypothesis, I told you, looking into the paper, you have to write down. I gave also example. And alternate or the research hypothesis, I told you, alternate hypothesis is the research hypothesis. This hypothesis proposes a relationship between two or more variables, as I explained there. For example, again we can take different example, and statistically, if at all we are going to use different tools, if at all we are having kind of like hypothesis in our hands, it will help us to land ourselves safely at the conclusion. Another question has come. If we say that we are making a null hypothesis, why do we write alternate hypothesis in the paper? Okay, that is actually alternate hypothesis and null hypothesis. You see, null hypothesis basically is a hypothesis that proposes no relationship or no difference between two variables. I mean to say, this is the conventional approach of making prediction. So it involves a statement that says there is no relations between two groups or kind of like certain variables. So this hypothesis sometimes help you for giving you a result when this hypothesis may also state that there is no significance between when different compared in respect to particular variables. For example, there is no difference in academic performance of high school students uh, uh, who participate in extracurricular activities. Those who do not participate in such activities is a null hypothesis. So based on your paper quality, paper nature of paper, you have to fix your hypothesis, and you insert those as a part of your testing. So what harms to you? So whenever we are writing alternate hypothesis and null hypothesis, we have to test it. So you can write it. There is no problem with that. And other is written how to select sample size. You see, sample size and formulate the problem. So based on the literature review, you see, if at all you are going to take, for example, population, unemployment, for example. Suppose you are going to take an example, I'm citing here, is unemployment problem. So unemployment problem, you cannot take with a sample size of 200 people or 100 people. So unemployment is a very common subject. So your area of operation or the region of your sample will be bigger, so that you can land on suitable decision. So that is the you can conclude yourself. So for example, unemployment, you cannot take the unemployment issues in a particular village, in a particular town. You have to take it in a state affair. You have to take it as a national affair. So state affair, suppose you are taking, so in a particular state of your particular country, you can study the unemployment and its effect on individuals' mind. You can study on that. So in that case, what happens? Your sample size will be bigger. So more sample will give you more correctness. More appropriate result is possible if at all your sample size is big. So in that case, you can also take. And another has come. Another is come making that I have a question. What is difference between co-founding and what is this? And so as I told you that the types of sampling. So in that case, you must see is title of the study statement of problem. Please tell the problem. You see, I already told you all those things can be located when you will study related materials. Then you can find out the the gap and the problems. And problems, statement of problem cannot be told instantly unless until the area and the literature review will be studied, then problem cannot be identified. So I told you in my example, I think I have told you that how to frame problem and how to identify the gap. So more and more literature review, if actually you will study, it will help you to identify the problems and gaps. And with this, I think it is a very big area. So we need more time to discuss, to elaborate all those things step by step. But within the stipulated time period, what I felt, I have tried my best level to give you certain idea, and we certainly will expand this topic if at all will be taking more and more areas related to this hypothesis. It will be helpful to the researcher, what I feel with the questions being asked by different scholars. And one scholar who has written that how the hypothesis will be rejected and accepted. You see that that is a technique actually, and that is a technique when you will be entering into the subject, entering into the research arena. You will be educational research, so you will be finding many kind of things at your place, that how different hypotheses are to be critical or rejection, or is to be there is you have to calculate standard deviation, you have to critically evaluate those things, and you must see the degree of freedom also. And looking into that, actually that will be done. And always remember this p-value approach of a researcher should follow, and then only he or she will be landing themselves on the platform. So apart from that, we have type 1 and type 2 error. Statistical errors on hypothesis is also is a very common phenomena. In statistical test, the theory, the notion of statistical error is an integral part of the hypothesis testing. So type 1 error is known as the first kind occurs when the null hypothesis is true but is rejected. And the type 2 error is an error of a second kind, which occurs when the null hypothesis is false and fails to be rejected. And I think you will be convinced with this. And over to Professor Pratisha, madam.